Today we're going to be working on the flap portion of our Trenta bucket sew along. Pieces that you'll need are your lining piece. I've already interfaced it with your heavyweight non-fusible or non-woven interfacing. You'll also need your exterior main panel piece, which you've already fused with your Peltex, your heavyweight fusible Peltex interfacing. What you're going to need to do is fold under a 1/2 inch to the wrong side on both pieces. Next piece you'll also need today is your accent piece that will go down the center. I'm using glitter vinyl on this one. And you'll need your hardware for your bag, depending on what you have. This is the hardware for the fold over class. Some of you might have a grommet that you'll use with your twist lock. This is the hardware that I have. First thing you'll do is you'll take both pieces after you've ironed under a 1/2 inch on both sides, and you'll match them up right sides together. I didn't clean my iron before I fused my Peltex on, so I've got some iron residue on here, but it won't hurt anything because it's on the inside and I've lined both pieces, so it won't show through. But you line both pieces up, bottoms and the tops, the folded edges together, as you can see there. And what we're going to do is go over to the sewing machine and stitch all the way around both sides and the bottom. So let me go ahead and take you over to the sewing machine. I thought I had my camera turned on, but I didn't. So I already stitched that, but I just wanted to show you on the back side. You can see that it has been stitched all the way around. Right there. And it's really close to that Peltex edge without sewing on the Peltex. We stitch all the way around. Now we'll take it up to our cutting table, and we need to trim these seam allowances. So let me go ahead and get that done. Alright, so I have trimmed my seam allowances. I use pinking shears right along the top edge here because that is a curve, and I want to make sure that when I turn this right side out that it'll form the curve. So let's go ahead and turn this right side out. Okay, we've got it turned right side out. You want to pay attention to your corners there. I have a little tool that I might use here. Let me go grab it. This little turning tool forever, but I like to get into these bottom corners here and just push them out. Make sure that they are nice and crisp. Alright, so that should look like this right now. What you want to do is you want to give it a good pressing, because you kind of wrinkled it up a little bit by turning it right side out. So give it a good press. Okay, next what we need to do is we need to top stitch all the way around both sides, bottom. Alright, back at my sewing machine. I have adjusted my stitch length to be just a little bit longer, because I like my stitches, my top stitching to be just a little longer. Go ahead and lower my presser foot. This top stitching is to be about 1/8 inch away from the edge. So we will go ahead and do that. Take it nice and slow. You get to the corner, go ahead and pivot, and then travel along that curved edge. Go ahead, pivot again at the corner, and then we'll go ahead and go right back up to the top. So now we have top stitched all the way around. Okay, I'm back at my sewing table. I've got my flat piece laid out here. I've got my piece of vinyl contrast. But what I do is she says to fold it in half and mark the centers on this. But this is vinyl, I really don't want to fold it. And I've already pressed this, it's got the Peltex, so I really don't want to fold it. So your flap measures exactly 6 inches wide. So you know that, and this piece here is 2 inches wide. So you can mark it with a pen, your Frixion pen, or whatever you want, but I just mark it 2 inches on each side. So I know a general guideline of where I need to place it. I'll do that at the top and at the bottom. Alright, so I've got my little markings there. It's dark fabric, dark pen, but I can see it, so that's all I need to see there. Peel off my tape. And this bottom has a slight curve that follows that curve. So what you want to do is you want to have this centered. Grab this to make sure that I am. It's 2 inches there, 2 inches there, 2 inches there, 2 inches there. So I am centered here. So now that I know that it's centered, I will go ahead and press that tape into place. And now what we need to do is we need to take it to the sewing machine and top stitch all the way around this whole piece, from top, bottom, up, and then across the top again. And that'll secure this vinyl into place. So, alright, back at our machine. Instructions do say to make sure that the bottom bobbin thread is a color that you'll want to see on the back, because when you sew this, you're sewing through and your stitches will show through on the back. So I went ahead and rethreaded my machine to this aqua color. And what you want to do is you want to stitch this 1/8 inch from the edge of this vinyl all the way around. So let me go ahead and get that started. Since I'm using vinyl, I've got a Teflon foot on my machine. Hopefully it'll work fine with this glitter vinyl. Looks like it's going to look just fine. Pressure. I have found that glitter vinyl can stretch a little bit as you're sewing it. Which now, since I'm at the end, I see that I've got a little edge showing that's going off the edge, but I can trim that up when I'm done here. I probably should have used the adhesive tape along both edges to secure it instead of just one down the middle. But I was trying to conserve my tape. Sometimes shortcuts aren't always the best thing. If I'm not happy with this, I can always rip it out and start over. Let's see what it looks like when we're done. Alright, so we're top stitched on it. Alright, so our vinyl piece is on. The next thing we need to do is we need to install the clasp at the bottom. So I'll do that up at my cutting table. Okay, I'm back at my cutting table. I've got my hardware here. This will go right on the front of this right here. What I like to do is I like to take the back portion of it. What I do is I make sure I'm centered on there. I take my pen and I go ahead and mark the inside box and where my screw holes are. Now when you go to cut this out, you need to cut it slightly bigger than those lines, and you need to allow for your screw holes. So let me go ahead and get my X-Acto knife out, and I'll be right back after I cut this out. Alright, I'm back. I've got my hole cut out. You really have to cut that hole much bigger than what you think. I've trimmed and trimmed and trimmed, but hopefully it'll all fit now. I did add fray check to the back of this because I was cutting through fabric and I wanted to make sure. This is always a nervous part for most people because you work so hard to get something to look so nice and then you cut a hole in it. But it'll look nice once it's all together. What you want to do is you want to install the front of your hardware. So you can see that covers up that hole nicely. And you make sure your screw holes are exposed and the edges are exposed so that when you add your back plate to it, everything will close up nicely. So all you do is you, once you put that together, you take your back plate and your little screws. Some people will add glue here. I have in the past, but sometimes my glue, I get crazy with it, and the glue will actually ooze out, and then I've got to clean up glue mess. And some fabrics it doesn't come off that easily. So screw these in. Okay, this particular one from Vicky at So You Need Hardware has 2 screws. Screw those in tightly. Like I said, if you wanted to use glue, you could, but I find that I don't have any issues at all if I don't use the glue. But there's your front flap. You've got your hardware front. There's your back. That ugly hole's been covered up, and you've got pretty hardware on there now. Alright, that's all there is to this part of the sew along. This was flap construction along with the hardware. We'll be back again later with other steps. Thanks for watching.